it's Joe Pardavila, and you're listening to the Forbes Books Podcast. And for as long as I've been alive, politicians have loved talking about infrastructure. But fixes usually get put off until they're absolutely necessary, and our airports, roads, and public transportation systems have been often compared to ones located in third world countries. But now it seems like legislators are willing to spend a little money. But who are they going to spend the money on? And yes, I intentionally said who, not what. Who are the people that will manage these enormous billion-dollar projects? Well, my guest this week is Esther Franklin. Esther is a serial entrepreneur, and one of her areas of expertise is centered in highway infrastructure. She's currently the CEO of All Roads and works with both private and public sectors to assist in the process of roadway improvements, engineering and construction of bridges, highway design, and road maintenance. Esther, how are you today?
I'm great, and yourself?
I'm excellent, but the reason I want to talk to you today is all about infrastructure. I feel like this is a word that we only hear during election cycles, but for some reason, the word infrastructure has lived on long past the 2020 election. So talk to me about the current state of it right now.
Well, currently, Joe Biden, our current president, has signed a $1 trillion bill for highway infrastructure across the United States, which is, we really, really need this. Like maybe a week ago, January 28th, one of our bridges here in Pittsburgh is considered the city of bridges. And he actually came here because he was going to talk about fixing our bridges and, fixing the roadway because of that purpose, because we're one of the largest cities that have the most bridges. And it collapsed. And there were 10 people hurt. The bus was on there. So that just suggests the importance of highway infrastructure and what's the likelihood of the president being here in the city of Pittsburgh while simultaneously a bridge collapsed,
Yeah, and it's funny, for someone who does this for a living, and you've just been, like I joked, you've been hearing about infrastructure for so long, and usually it just comes and goes, but it's really, this conversation about it has lingered on. Why do you think it is? Is it because of Biden's initiative to just not let go of this? Because like Esther, every president always throws around that word, but then never really does any good on it. But it looks like he's really stepping the gas on it.
Yes, I think Biden wants to make a change. He wants to step outside of the normal, okay, we're going to say we're going to do this. As soon as you get in office, your focus changes. He's sticking to what he said. So it's really important. Even in Charleston, when I was there, your roads are terrible. It messes up people's cars. It limits them from going back and forth to work, the transportation throughout the city. So it's very, very important that these things get fixed.
And what's interesting is, Esther, you point out the roads in Charleston. I'm originally from the New York City area, and we're used to terrible roads, but we expect it because we're like, okay, it's snowy and cold for 3 months, then it's super hot and humid for 3 months. So I see why the roads get all screwed up. But then I get down to Charleston, and there's just as many potholes. I'm like, this, and I understand that it's not just because of snow and cold, but it is funny that these roads fall apart even when there's not even extreme temperatures.
Right, and I think it's the what they use, like the asphalt or whatever type of material they use to pave the roadways, may be a cause too as well. So it's really important they do that. And the bridges, let's say, for instance, you going across a bridge and there's water underneath the bridge. You wouldn't expect it to fall down, and then you're in a bridge in the car with your kids. So it's very, very important that they do that. But more importantly, it's like, okay, the money is there, right? Now the money's there. Who's going to fix the bridges, right? You have your architecture, your engineers, your surveyors, your right-of-way acquisition companies. I have one. And you need a succession plan. So now you have to educate the people in schools, that let them know that, okay, there's jobs out here. Like you said, you really only hear it around politics, highway infrastructure. Because if you ask someone, what is highway infrastructure? They're going to say, I don't know. And they have no clue on what it entails. But I think this is like huge for us now to get people into the industry so that these things can actually be implemented and our roads can get fixed.
And I know you have a lot of experience in legal and real estate. What sort of veered you in this direction to handle infrastructure? What was your inspiration for that?
What's so funny is I always say that it all started with a Google search, right? We were working with the PennDOT, that's Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and also the Turnpike Commission. And one of the agents, they called like, hey, you want a team? Because we do teaming arrangements. You want to team with us on this project? I was like, oh, sure. We will handle the title work. So my other company is a title company. And I'm like, okay. And then I found it interesting, like, okay, well, we could do this. So he and I were putting together a plan to open up a new company. Nonetheless, he's really old and he went left and I went right. So I opened up my own and I teamed with two of my other colleagues and we made a reality.
Wow. And what was it about it though? Because like I said, you've mostly been dealing in real estate and law. Why did you feel like at this point in your life? Because this is like, I'm sure you've heard the word over a million times during 2020, the word pivot. Why did you decide that now was the time to pivot?
Well, I want to say pivot because it's all in the same wheelhouse. So it takes three components to make it up, right? You need title, which I had,
Okay.
and then Alan, which is one of my colleagues, he had the right of way experience, and then Christopher, he's the appraiser. So all three of us made up the one component to actually put it together because you can't have one without the other. So it was just like, okay, we put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Now we have one core company.
Wow. All right. So
Yeah.
you got Esther, you got Alan, you got Chris, and you decide to join forces. It's sort of like an Avengers situation where you guys all have your own separate superpowers. What were some of the first steps you took, the three you decided to take on when you got All Rose going?
Well, pretty much our work is we're dealing with local agencies or Department of Transportations. So we got on their list, we got approved for our right-of-way acquisition firm, got on their list to start teaming with larger engineering firms because we're a small company, engineering firms, architects to come together collectively to actually get it done because we're just a small piece in the puzzle. So you have your engineering companies, you have your construction companies, and you have all these other people that plays little parts in the big scheme of things.
And so are you, are you like the middleman here? Are you sort of like the project manager in terms of how all this stuff gets together?
No, actually we're the second phase in the process. So whenever they're looking to do a plan,
okay.
So say, okay, we're going to widen the roadway on 279, this hypothetically speaking.
Yep.
All right, so you get your designer, your engineers, put together a plan, and they'll say, okay, we're going to go down this way, this way, according to the manual. So then they'll say, all right, we have to acquire right of way. So in order to acquire right of way, we have to go out and negotiate with the landowners to acquire the land so that they can actually widen the roadway and the construction people can come in and do what they need to do to fix the bridges.
I see. So you're again using your legal background. It's all contract and crossing the T's, dotting the I's, so to speak.
Absolutely, it's very detail oriented. A lot of attorneys work in this industry as well, but we took a different approach. Well, I actually, I wanted to be a lawyer at one time. I was a paralegal for some years, and then after working with them for so long, I decided against it. But nothing against them, but it was just my career choice for me.
And how much is that experience in paralegal? How much has that helped you with what you're doing with All Rose? Because it sounds like the way you've set up, it seems like you have to be a borderline paralegal / lawyer to get your job done.
A huge role. The law sector, it helps you to hone down on detail. You have to be detail oriented in the legal profession. Crossing the T's, dotting the I's. So, and with that, I have a title company. So we do title searching, who owns the land rights, their background, making sure that everything is clear for them to actually acquire title. So all those parts make up the whole. So it's all inclusive. It's interesting how I did do a pivot, but it's all a part of the whole scheme of things.
And can you talk me through how the infrastructure of this country works? In layman's terms as much as you can, because I'm not very bright. So as easy as you can do, like, how do we decide when, for example, like your road widening example, who makes that decision? Then how does the ball get rolling? Because I feel like with government bureaucracy, there's a lot of rubber stamping and permitting. I was trying to build a house and it took almost like 4 months to get a rubber stamp. So I can't even imagine building a house being that difficult, what it would take to build a road or a bridge these days.
It's a lot. Well, there's a law that governs that. It's eminent domain.
Okay.
The state, they have the right of eminent domain. So that's the right to use the public roadways for public use. And if any property infringes upon that, they have the right to take it, but for fair market value. So when they go out there's a bridge there, there's some roadways there, whatever the case may be. Someone may call in and say, okay, our road is, there's a pothole there, a pothole there. They'll get all these calls in, or whatever the case may be, in the engineering firms, and they'll say, okay, this needs to be done. How long do you have? And then they'll put a time frame on it, maybe 5-year project, 10-year project, whatever the case may be. And then you get into, the manual. You have to,
Right.
it's a book that you have to, it's like a Bible of right away. You have to follow all the intricate details of step-by-step process on how it gets it done. So in the event that a landowner doesn't want to negotiate, they're like, oh, heck no, we're not doing that. We don't want your money. We're going to offer you fair market value. And they reject it. Then they have to go to court, and they'll take it by eminent domain, but they'll still pay them the market value. But who wants to go through all that legalese to have to go through the court? Just settle out of court.
So that's what kind of Allrose does, right? You sort of handle those eminent domain situations
in connection with the district, whatever district we're working out of. Pennsylvania, we have 11 or 12 districts. Mm-hmm. So there's a district manager you work in tandem with, and there's contractors. So it'll be us, another engineering firm, architecture firm, depending on what the project is. There may be a design, build, it may be a sidewalk or a roadway. It varies depending on what the project entails. We work with people in Virginia, Maryland, primarily Pennsylvania. We're trying to expand, but that's where our start was.
So you've been doing this since 2018. Tell me about the progress of the company. How are things coming?
It's coming along really well. We started out first with 3 employees. That was myself, Alan, and Chris. Now we're up to 7. And I mean, project-wise, the work is there. It's just a matter of getting experienced people to help you do the job.
What do you mean by that?
Experienced people in terms of like a right-of-way agent or a chief appraisal.
Okay.
When the real estate market crashed, when it was like the big bubble.
Oh, wait.
So then the CFPB changed the rules on what it takes to be an appraiser. So now you have to have a college degree. You have to have 30 hours of training with a certified appraiser, and it takes a lot. So getting those people, someone interested in that field, it's kind of weird trying to find people to do that.
It almost seems like you're playing chess. There's all these chess pieces that you have to move around the board to finish the match.
Right.
Wow.
And not only that, like title people I can always find title people, but right-of-way agents primarily, they may consist of people with JDs or MBAs, and where are they? So right. We have to find a succession plan and say, okay, how are we going to get these people on board? My vision is to maybe team or to partner with engineering schools or maybe University of Pittsburgh, different university, to get it out there. Like highway infrastructure, there's a career in that. The roads are always going to be there. You still have to get to and from, like just try to get them into that and have them trained so they can become a part of the team.
Interesting. And it's funny because like, how would anyone even know these jobs exist? I was joking with my wife the other day. I think a business, retail, restaurant is better off hanging a sign not hiring, because it's just automatically assumed that a business is going to have a sign that says now hiring, looking for work. Who's going to fill these roles, Esther?
That's why I was writing the book. It's called Highway Infrastructure, Bridging the Gap. So now we have all this money for infrastructure, and the current people that are in play. So, okay, now you get inundated with all these jobs, and you may have a bridge that needs to be done. How long is it going to take for you to get that bridge done?
Wow.
So I'm thinking like, okay, I don't know per se, like, okay, how long did they know that bridge wasn't,
up to code or something? Yeah.
Before it fell down.
It's so funny because at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about how there's so much talk about infrastructure during elections and presidential cycles, but no one ever talks about like how we'll actually do it. And this is the problem we're running into now. And Esther, what you've discovered and you're writing in the book is like, now that we finally got the money for it, which has always been the struggle, now it's like the chicken and the egg thing. Do you get the money first or the people first? And now you've got the money, but now you got to get the people.
Exactly. The execution plan. Now what? And then what I said is so funny is Biden was here and then a bridge collapsed. Like, ta-da, like a light bulb went off. This is important, right? I guess that stresses the importance of that. Okay, now we're going to get these bridges fixed. This is what they say. How do you plan to do it?
And talk to me about the succession plan and how you fill these roles. What are some of the steps, some of the stuff you're writing about in the book? What are some of the things that we can do to be prepared to handle all this influx of cash that's going to be coming in with the infrastructure deal?
Well, my vision is for to partner with, like I said, like larger corporations, like even maybe asphalt companies may want to fund or give scholarships to high school students that want to get into that. But we first have to educate them on the importance of the highway infrastructure, what it entails, what jobs are out there available, and how, and let them know how they can get into it, what degrees, what certifications are required, so that they can follow the path and get it done. The money's out there. Let's just introduce it to the people and let them know, here it is.
Does the rest of your industry realize how big of a problem this is? Because, like we said, it's crazy that now we can finally pay for this, but we have no one to pay. I mean, does the industry recognize what a bad spot you're in right now?
Yeah, there's people, there's not an influx of it. You know how certain markets are saturated. This is a niche market. So there's not a lot of people out there that can do it, that are actually not doing it right now.
Mm.
But there's an opportunity to get all the people from different states to come in and help and fulfill these jobs that needs to be done to get the job done. So I'm just like, I don't know. All we can do is develop a succession plan with schools, partner with the larger corporation, so that we actually can get these people trained long term. That this may take like 25 years, even longer than that. I
Wow.
don't even know how long they've been trying to get this done. I know there was a project. I was a little girl living over by Kennywood 30 years ago, and they were trying to put this Montfayette Expressway in, and they're just now doing it. And I actually was working on it with another company,
Wow.
another smaller company here in Pittsburgh. They've been trying to get this done for the last 30 years, and they just now initiated it.
Huh.
So you can just imagine how how
It's
long
long.
some of these projects may take. But it's very important that we train our upcoming generation to know, like, these jobs are out here, and just not leave it to attorneys out there, because everyone doesn't want to be an attorney.
Huh. You must have like the patience of a saint, because most people who are entrepreneurs, not that they're looking for a get rich quick scheme, but they're like, okay, this is going to take 1 or 2 years. But you're talking that this is a decades in the making project you're taking on here.
Absolutely. Because I know the importance of it. It may take a long time to get there, but it'll be worth it in the long run. Because who wants my grandkids will be driving down the road, or if something happens, I don't want that to happen. So, okay, let's get it done. And now with highway infrastructure, we don't know, with all the new technology coming out now, telecommunications and all this stuff, we may have flying cars. Who knows? And then that's going to be another thing that has to get tied into that, because now you have airway rights, right?
Wow, geez.
So it
I,
gets deeper and deeper
I
as
don't
we
think,
go
Esther,
along.
I don't think we have to worry about flying cars in our lifetime.
I'm
Maybe
just
your
saying,
grandkids, but I don't think that's an issue right now. Let's try to get
I'm
the
just
electric
saying.
vehicles working, you know?
Even that too. I mean, anything, even electric. Well, drones. Let's say drones per se.
Okay. Okay.
Even the drones, like, people got the drones going on and doing all this other stuff, and then a lot of individuals say, "Oh, I don't want that flying over my house."
Right.
Who owns those rights? And then here we go with those.
That's
You have to look beyond, well beyond what it appears to be on the forefront.
and I call it the entrepreneur's conundrum, which is, see the problem, fix the problem. And I'm curious, when you saw that this problem existed, did you look around the room and be like, why isn't anyone working on this? Because that's a lot of times entrepreneurs find a problem that only they see. But were you, Lord, like, and I know you say that Google's your friend, but did you start Googling like, no one else sees a problem with this? Why aren't we doing something about this?
Yeah, I did. Even going into like some of the events, the ASHI events and the DOT events with all, and I look around like, wow, the age on people, like, okay, these people have been in the game a long time. So who's going to take after them? Who's going to
Yeah.
come up under them? And it's like, this is a problem. Maybe they don't see it. I have no idea, because when I saw, I was like, oh, they're really, really, yeah.
And did you talk to some of these older humans about like, hey, what are you doing for the next generation? Are they even worried about it? Is it a
No,
thought on their mind?
actually, no, not really. The one guy I was working with, his name was Chuck Brannigan. He owned a acquisition firm here in Pittsburgh, and he sold it. He moved to Florida. They were bought out by a larger, I think they're an engineering firm. So they just
He got
engineering
out.
firm bought them out. He got out. Now
Wow.
it's another arm under the engineering firm, but where are the people at coming up underneath them? So
Wow.
I don't know if they train on demand, but then you have a lot of people who have a lot of experience. They want to get paid more, right?
Hmm.
And then they're older. But now it's like, okay, we want to bring in a younger generation, train them the long haul, but it's hard to keep them.
What does your family think about this task you've taken on for the last 3, 4 years? Because you were very successful in other industries. Were they like, Esther, what are you doing? Just keep doing what you're doing. Why do you want to do this to yourself?
My son always says that. He's like, Mom, you just never. It's just that I saw a problem and I'm just like, okay, let's hone in on this and fix it, figure it out. I may not fix the whole problem, but we can start here and then someone else can take the torch and just flood out the whole United States and there'll be a torch lit maybe in each state.
That's awesome. If I empowered you, like gave you one of those Harry Potter wands that you could do one thing right now and you waved it and it would do one thing, obviously like we mentioned, this is not going to be a quick fix. This is not going to take a couple of years. It's going to take, but what's the first thing that you would hope you could do if you were able to like wave that wand and be the first step in remedying this problem?
Human capital, educating the individual, getting the people, educating human capital actually come in and be interested in doing this and getting them on the job and getting the work done.
Hmm.
I'll just wave my wand and there'll be 300 people in the industry. Yeah.
Well, you say 300. What's the numbers now? Like we're fully versed now in the fact that it's a problem that there's not enough people doing this. How many are there? Do you know?
I know that there's not a lot of appraisers here
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania that specializes in eminent domain. I can name about 5 off the top of my head, and they're in the industry, well known. And then
5
even
in the entire state of I mean, my
no, not
geography's
5 in total. The 5 that I know
No,
that
okay.
work
I was like,
closely.
boy, that's a problem. That's
No,
only
no,
5.
I know 5 that closely work in the industry.
Interesting.
It even in doing the title on the title end of things, like getting appraisers, residential appraisers, because there's residential appraisers, you have commercial appraisers, you have eminent domain appraisers, you get HUD appraiser. Like they specialize in certain areas.
Right.
It's not a fix all, one all fix all.
And I know you're expanding things. You're in Pennsylvania now and trying to expand. How difficult is that transition? Does it become another more of an educational process for you where you have to be licensed or something like that to work in other states across the country?
Yes, you have to be licensed and approved on their list to actually work there. We've done that in 2 states, but we just want to hone in on 2 states, build the infrastructure for ourselves to have a solid team so that we can expand into different areas. It's about human capital at this point.
And what's the goal for Allrose and Esther Franklin?
The end goal is to become national, penetrate the East Coast first, and then we'll work our way through.
In terms of planning that out, is it just like, again, you're very patient, Esther. Is it like something where you're like, just, how athletes say one day at a time? Is it just like one state at a time and then baby steps and work your way across the Eastern Seaboard?
Yes. Well, I actually have 4. I'm going to be in 4 states by 2023 and then work our way across because we may build partnerships, have partnerships, mergers and acquisitions, whatever the case may be, just as long as we get enough people on board that can see the vision in the long term so that we can penetrate all these areas and get it done.
It's shocking, Esther, that we've gotten to this point where we're actually serious about infrastructure in this country and we can't do anything about it. It is just, boy, America, what a great place, right?
It is, right? But you would think that, okay, over all the course of all these years, they know that it's a problem, but you're not putting anything into place to actually fix it. And not only that, but they made it much harder for people to become appraisers. But I think they may lighten up on that because of this issue.
Interesting. So you're saying that the '08 bubble, the restrictions they put on appraisers, but that made it even worse than it probably was going back to 12 years, right?
Yes, it's bad. All that schooling that it takes to get there. It's like, okay, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to? Because younger kids, why do I want to go to all that schooling? Why do I want to do all that? They ask these questions. They may want to do that, but I remember in 2006 when I was even contemplating becoming an appraiser, you could get the certificate. I think may have been like 3 or 4 months. It wasn't that hard, but now it's like college degree, doing this, doing that.
Wow.
It gets like cumbersome. And it discourages people sometimes too.
Her name is Esther Franklin. She's the CEO of All Rose. Esther, I am super excited about what you're working on. You have the book. How is that coming along?
It's coming along fairly good. We have a few more steps we have to go through to get put all the puzzle together and just getting it published. Very excited.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. Esther, thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you too. Have a great day, okay?
You as well, Esther. And that's it for this edition of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a quick second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please, don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.